I love talking about marriage because I feel like people are out there getting married and they don't really take into consideration what marriage actually is.
He thinks that now that you have married him, you have given up your bisexual ways. If you're going to be married, you're going to spending your lives together as a unit. Y'all kind of got to be on the same page, at least about your value system.
Just because two people love each other does not mean they are meant to be together.
This is an Unsolicited Perspectives YouTube exclusive.
Jay, Reddit, am I overreacting? I mean, actually, this should
It's
just...
your thing.
It's my thing, and it's just going to be something that we just do once a week, guaranteed at least, that we're going to talk about, am I overreacting? Because I'm messy. I love people telling me their business, and people love to tell their business on Reddit.
Yeah. It's literally the perfect place for you.
This is about marriage, and I love talking about marriage because I feel like people are out there getting married and they don't really take into consideration what marriage actually is. I'm one person that also fell victim to it, so I'm not blaming anybody or judging anybody. I just think that people should be a little bit more aware before they get married. This one is titled, Am I Overreacting? My Husband Hates My Pride Flag. Now, just the title. Jay, just from the title, before I read anything else, just from the title, what are you thinking?
Probably not overreacting.
Okay. All right.
You know, so I immediately think of not that this person is flying the flag for themselves, but maybe in support of somebody they care about. So, I don't know, to hate representation and equality.
Okay. Well, let me read what she wrote. So, my husband, 32-year-old male, and I, a 30-year-old female, have been together for over 3 years. He had known my personality the whole time. I saw no point in hiding anything about myself. One of those things is that I support the LGBTQ plus community, especially as a member of that group, as I am bi. He knows this and knows about my past relationships with both men and women. Recently, I was at an event, not a Pride event, but it was during Pride Month, and somebody handed me a Pride flag, one of the tiny ones on a stick. I held on to it and brought it to my home from the event. I set it somewhere random in our house, and for a few hours later, he told me he didn't want to look at it, so I put it on my nightstand. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm reading this, and let's just say that she didn't really write real well, but that's okay.
So a lot of the time, I feel like people are writing this full of emotion, so they're not paying attention to punctuation or grammar.
And grammar.
Yeah.
And she's writing as she speaks. This is how she talks.
Yes.
When you've gone to journalism school or taken writing classes, you learn to not write as you speak, to write.
You do not write colloquially.
Yeah.
When you're yes.
So back to her story. Today, he told me that he woke up in the middle of the night and couldn't sleep. I asked what was wrong, and he told me he couldn't stop thinking about the pride flag and how much it bothers him, especially since it's next to our bed. I said I can put it somewhere else, and he told me it's not comfortable. He's not comfortable having it anywhere in the house. I asked why, and he said I equated to hanging a Confederate flag in the house. That movement is just as toxic and harmful. I told him I respect his feelings, but I'm not getting rid of the flag, as I don't at all feel that way about the movement, and it's sort of keepsake from the event. I feel blindsided. I know he's conservative and religious, but he has known this whole time how I feel about the pride, etc. It hasn't been vocalized issue until now. It hasn't been a vocalized issue until now. Maybe it's my reading as well, ladies and gentlemen.
No, it's how it's written, because I'm reading it along with you. It's how it's written.
It's pretty bad. I want to keep the tiny flag even more now. Am I thinking too deeply about this, or is this a giant red flag? Okay, so basically a synopsis, because the writing and the reading wasn't that great. She went to an event with her husband. It wasn't an LGBTQ plus or pride event, but they had a pride flag. She kept the flag. She took the
No, I don't
flag
think
home.
the husband was there at the event. She just said, I recently went to an event and
Okay.
somebody
Well,
handed me a pride flag.
she took the flag, took it home,
hmm
placed it somewhere. He said, I don't really like it there. Placed it somewhere else. It was near the bed. No, she placed it by the bed. He said, I don't really like it there.
It's
Said,
in
okay.
the drawer. It's not on the nightstand. I think it was in the drawer.
Did she say it was in the drawer? I don't think she said. She said, no, put it on my nightstand.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So put it on the
I
nightstand.
thought it
He
was
ain't
in the
feeling it.
drawer,
He equates
Yeah.
it to the Confederate flag.
which is okay.
Okay. She says, I knew that he was conservative and religious, but I didn't know he was this conservative and religious. He knows about my history. Is she overreacted? Now, Jay, you said initially that no, she isn't overreacting just from the title. After reading her poorly worded Reddit post, how do you feel?
So you might actually be a little surprised,
Mm-hmm.
but I think she is overreacting. And here's the reason why. So just the same way that he knew your past, you knew his also. Like you know him also. You know he's conservative and you know he's religious. And you think just because he knows about your past, about not that being bi is your past, you are still currently bisexual, but that you've dated men and women, you think that he accepts that past. No, girl, I could tell you right now, he thinks that he has converted you. Okay. He thinks that now that you have married him, you have given up your bisexual ways and you are committed to a monogamous heterosexual relationship. And so you bringing that flag into the house reminds him of the fact that you still are bisexual. And because he never said anything, y'all never discussed it, but it should have been discussed. Not just that he knows about it and is aware of your past, but also how do you feel about that? That should have been a conversation. That should have been a series of conversations. You all level setting where your values are, your belief system. If you're going to be married, you're spending your lives together as a unit. Y'all kind of got to be on the same page, at least about your value system. And because it was never brought up, you never discussed it. Neither one of you ever discussed where you stand on LGBTQ plus issues. You didn't discuss it. And so you bringing that flag in there, yeah, he's uncomfortable. And you should have known that. You thought that his silence was agreement, and that's not what it was.
So that didn't.
Now, him likening it to the Confederate flag is not cool.
Well, this is what I'll say about this, because I feel I'm not surprised at your response. I'm surprised at the direction of your response. I think you might be surprised at my response, but once again, not the direction of my response. I'll explain. Yes, she thought that he had accepted the past because he ain't say nothing about it. But what she did not take into consideration was the fact that he thought, in his mind, being religious as he is, I done converted her. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
Oftentimes I see a problem of people not talking values. I have a friend of mine. She's been a friend of mine for a long time. There is obviously an attraction there. We've decided just to be friends because we don't have the same values. We don't have the same values. We disagree on fundamental social issues. And I've told her, these aren't things that we'll be able to work around. We know differences can make people better. not these
This is
differences.
non-negotiable.
This is my principle. This is my square that I stand on. I'm never going to budge on this square. What we are fundamentally different in what we believe. I'm not judging you for it. I hope you don't judge me. We can be friends, but we can't date because it would never work. It will never work. I know a person who dated a guy for a year and did not realize he was a Trump supporter. And for me, I was flabbergasted. Like, how do you not have that type of conversation at all, especially in the DC area? Oftentimes, people aren't talking about their values. And when you bring in the fact that you want to raise kids together, you need to be on the same page about what you see for the world. Now, when you get married, sometimes things change, right? People evolve or devolve, and their processes change. This is not what we're talking about here. She knew from the get-go what it was. He knew from the get-go what it was. And you know why I don't blame him for comparing the pride flag to the Confederate flag? He's standing on his principle. He's a religious person. So he is not bigoted, racist, or anything. His is a moral basis. And for him, the Bible says one thing.
Yeah.
The Bible says one thing, and that's how he lives his life. So I'm not judging him for saying, no, the Confederate flag and the pride flag are the same. To him, I can understand his point of view because his whole life is based around religion. And if you base your entire life on what I call the American version of religion or Christianity, that all makes sense. I can see how you can make that parallel. I don't logically, common sense doesn't believe that, but okay, he's not being a hypocrite. He is who he is.
Yeah.
She's the one that's overreacting because he's always been this way. And how the hell are you going to be a part of the LGBTQ plus community and marry a Christian conservative? Those two things just don't go along.
You can't help who you fall in love with. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. You can't help who you fall in love with.
Just because two people love each other doesn't mean they're meant to be together.
Exactly. So that was where, like I said, it needed to be a series of conversations where you guys have a meeting of the minds and level set. What are our values as a couple? What are our beliefs as a couple? What are our non-negotiables? Where do we stand on certain issues? Because we're trying to build a life together. Yeah, you can disagree, right? He could be fiscally conservative and you may not be, or whatever. You might be socialist. I don't know. It could be anything. Yeah, you can, but there are certain things, like if our disagreement is based on the rights of people to live happily and safely, then maybe we can't disagree on that, right? But that needed to be a series of conversations while you were dating. I get it. Nobody likes to talk about this stuff, but you have to make sure that you're on the same page about what you believe if you're trying to build a life together. I don't know if she's overreacting. I understand her reaction. I also understand his reaction. And I understand that I would recommend marriage counseling so you can have somebody start prompting these questions, so you guys can start deep diving into what you believe and making sure that you're on the same page. And if you're not, you got some questions to answer.
I don't think they can.
I don't know.
I think fundamentally his basis is based on the Bible and Christianity, and those two things are naturally opposed to one another.
I don't think so, because I know a lot of people who were conservative Christians who have, as you said, evolved and understand that tolerance, inclusivity, equity, all of these things are important, and that people have a right to live safely and happily. And what other people do in their lives actually don't have nothing to damn do with you. But there are people whose positions have evolved, including former President Barack Obama, whose position evolved.
I think that's different. when you're talking about the idea of other people, not your partner. I think I think
that's where the
where
marriage
conflict.
counselor is gonna come in.
Okay,
And they might figure out during the counseling that it ain't gonna work. They might figure out, they might actually come to a compromise or an agreement about it. We don't know. That's up to them, but yeah.
My final word is this. It was preached to me when I was younger, and I kind of listened to it and didn't, and it is my motto now. Just because two people love each other does not mean they are meant to be together.
Yeah. I loved a lot of knuckleheads. I ain't with them no more.
Join the conversation and follow the Unsolicited Perspectives podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your audio podcasts.